DBSCG things.
What is up, you guys? My name is Taxon and welcome back to Yuhp DBSCG Things. Today I'm bringing you another exciting deck profile. This one specifically the undefeated from our locals this week, Yellow Icarus. But before we get into the deck, guys, I do want to say if you want any custom mats and or sleeves, hit up Pro Mats, guys. They do an amazing job. They did mine and my teams and we all love them. I'll leave a link in the description below for you guys to go check them out. And also, guys, if you are new here or enjoyed today's content in any way, consider hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button, and also hitting that bell so that you're notified every single time I upload a video. And with that being said, let's turn this camera around and show you what he ran. Alrighty, you guys, so here we are with the other undefeated from our locals today. This is our skillless Gohan player, Barber.
What's up, guys? I'm Barber. I'm with the Vegeta Saiyan Army, and I also play with the Yuhp gang. I played Gohan Icarus. Ever since Mecha Frieza, this leader has just become the better leader to pick for yellow. So I like to usually play red, but lately, since the meta has been a little bit more control mid-range, I've opted to play yellow. And I've been on this deck since set 15 kind of came out, and I had proxied it before. I was playing it blue-yellow before, like the Gen Con version, and then after Bojack got banned, actually me and Giancarlo from PPG started talking about this deck and seeing the ins and outs of mono yellow Icarus. So here it is. So starting off, 3 POSS, Power of Super Saiyan is the best card for yellow, I feel. You're going to use this anytime you have an energy open. You can tap down either a Unison or a battle card. You draw a card before you do that, so what's really cool is if you draw into Bergamo or if you draw into Poonteam before you play it, you're able to get the effects off, even if you didn't know you had the card. So this card is also a negate. In clutch situations, you might be using it as a negate. So we'll on to the next card. Probably my favorite card in the deck is Vegeta's Final Flash. Not only is it my favorite card in the deck, it's also the card I lose the most to, because people just forget about this card. And when I played KP and Gen Con, I actually probably would have took Daehan out if I had not fallen victim to this card, because if I had swung with a different card, like my Unison or my leader, because he didn't have the negate at the time, he wouldn't have been able to just Final Flash at it. It would have been, able to go through. So a lot of people, they'll try to go in for game on their battle card, and this card just says no. And if you're trying to kill you for double strike, triple strike, whatever, you just take a single damage. And then there's also a little cheeky thing that I'd combine with this. We'll see that in just a second.
Spice.
To couple all this, you want to play a lot of extra cards in this deck because it does revolve around playing the new Counterplay Goku and the Frieza Robotic Repost. This card is either a charge or a negate for me. Free negates are never bad. Free is never bad. This deck basically revolves around 1, 2, or 3 drop plays. Other than that, everything's free. So yeah, but if you're in a clutch situation, you go down to 5 life. Say your opponent is trying to attack into something else, not trying to get your leader to awaken or something, say you just need to use it, you're at 3 life even, and you just got to save yourself. I've used this plenty of times, just even when I'm even at 2 life sometimes, and you need to save yourself from that final attack. It's free.
Do you ever find yourself in a situation where you tap 2 for it?
Rarely. I guess in some matches maybe, but most of the time this is just going to be free because you have other things you can do with your energy that are going to stall game even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like we'll go into the next couple of cards after this one. I run 1 max power Kamehameha. Giancarlo was actually the guy that told me to run this card. I used to run it at 2. I think 1's pretty sufficient. If you need it back, you can always negate and grab it back. It is a negate, but most of the time you're going to use this card just to remove a big threat. Gogeta Xeno is a pretty hard matchup for me. So this card just is extra security against thwartings, early turns, and anything that's big in this game that you need to get rid of. And grabbing it back is just super plus. You need to negate and grab it back, it's just super plus.
Absolutely, that card's great.
So now we're going into what couples with running so many extra cards that are mono yellow. We have Robotic Repost. This card's been out for a while now. Negate for 1, as long as you have 2 like any of these as a 2, either a charge or in drop. So what I like to do sometimes is turn 1, I'll charge this, I'll mulligan for this, and basically on my turn 1, since if I'm attacking, I can always use this on my attacking turn, and then these are live. If I'm defending, sometimes I might just tap this, play a 1 drop, then draw a card if I'm defending, because sometimes you just want to take the life. But most of the time I just get this off just to ensure that this is live turn 1. And a lot of people don't even know that. So like, shout out to Bruce actually for telling me that a long time ago when he played the Halku deck against me. He was always charging these Final Flashes, and I'd ask him like, why are you charging a Final Flash or a Power of a Super Saiyan? Those are such good cards. He'd be like, watch, I'll show you. So yeah, getting these live turn 1 is pretty cool. Stops everything from attacking unless they tap something. So most people know what this card does. It's great. Now this is probably my new favorite card from the new set that goes with this deck is this Counterplay Goku. Basically same stiff as Repost. As long as you have mono yellow energy charge, 2 between energy and drop, he becomes 1. What's really cool about this card that a lot of people don't like when you're playing against them is it's a counterplay that rests a card before it hits play. So even if they like I've had blue players try to God Seal on me, and I'll be like, that's fine. You do realize I still rest the card though, I just don't draw. So a lot of people will opt to take that back, and I'm a nice guy, so I'll let you take that back. But otherwise, yeah, plays a blocker, draws a card, rests a threat that's coming in. That's those SS4 Bardock decks I've been playing a lot, and those things love to play stuff that's just really big, and you can't do anything but just rest it, because if it attacks you, those Gogeta 8s are just going to rip your hand, rip your field. It ignores barrier, so like there's a really big card in this deck that it has barrier, and I want to keep that card on board. So if they get that out, it's not good for me. I do play the Saiyan Unison because I was a red player up until this point, and even before that I played a little Mecha Frieza. But this card allows me to be aggressive when I want to. And most games, it might not be the right play, but my play style, if I can get this out on turn 1, most of the time I'm going to swing to go for 4 life right away. That way, because I know you're going to get your resources anyway eventually, right? You're going to awaken eventually. If I can get you to down to 4 life, excluding some decks, but that's going to put me in a more beneficial spot, especially if I'm at 8 life. So this guy, he just pluses 1. You can give all skillless and him 5k on the board, but you're going to use him more so for his -1. And keeping the consistency of this deck is super important, because I played without this before, and it was the PPG, one of the guys at PPG who used this, and I kind of saw that card and I was like, okay, that makes this really consistent, because if you don't see your skillless in this deck, it can be a little rough. You don't get your extra draws, and that's kind of where you benefit most on everything. So you -1 after you play him for 1, you swing with 10, you swing with 10 for leader most of the time, you -1, and then you play out 2 skilllesses from your deck that are both 10Ks, and you swing with those. So a lot of people think this is a control deck, and I can go aggro if I draw this card, or if I just want to be a little bit more aggressive at some turns. Because the 15k beaters are also a good thing, because this thing plays out skillless, it's really easy. The best Unison in the deck though would be Trunks. Dual attack 20k, his +0. You choose a card on the opponent side of the battlefield, rest it, negate its skills. If it's a 4 or less, KO it. And then he also has a really sick ability for -3, draw 1 card, and all your opponents in rest mode get to be KO'd. So he's a board wipe for yellow, and this was like super needed way even beforehand, because before Turles, this was all yellow had for early removal. So this card's super good. So my super combos, I do 3 of the Krillin, and I do 1 of the skillless Chalai. The skill steel Chalai, it's my bad. So what I like about Krillin is obvious: draw power, cycling dead cards from hand. Sometimes I'll run into having saiyan in hand, and I'm like, man, I just really don't need this card right now. It's good to get it out of hand, draw 2 new cards. So, I mean, bottom deck draw 2 is always good. This card's really sweet because it says that on, what is it? Is it on my turn? Yeah, if it's my turn, I can choose one of my opponent's skillless battle cards and KO it. That can come in handy if you need to get rid of anything because you have this card. This becomes your, essentially, you can't do it on your opponent's turn, but on your turn you have basically a Kefla for 1 energy and 2 cards. You tap 1 to play Final Flash on whatever you need, even if it has barrier, skill negate it, and then you just combo this and kill it. Pretty cool. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually just saw Marquise play it on stream last night. We were actually testing this deck, and the Yuhp guys were telling me that maybe a 1 of Zamasu might have been good, but after I read these skills, this card is broken. And you can rest Unisons or Leader. Everything else in this deck rests battle cards, so this is definitely plus plus. Skillless cards, I don't know what to say. Leader plays them, draw cards.
The engine for the leader.
Yep. I opted to play these because there's a lot of blue decks in our locals. I feel there's a lot of Soul Strikers. There was a couple of SS4s, the SS2 Gohan that just won that 1 week. God Elite Destruction Wheeze is sweet because blue players don't really have a way to deal with this card early game. So you just slap this down and then they're like, oh man, I got to deal with this thing. And then even late game, if you slap it down, they have to deal with it. So stops your opponent from aggressively sensu beating or using any untap effects on their turn. So Soul Striker essentially can't use the untap on their leader unless they once per turn lose an energy. So this card's broken. Next package I have, I run a 4/4 of. Some people might disagree with this. I think it's just the best engine in the deck. Every match I've played, they fear this thing. Slug package. This card draws a card, or I can once per turn tap it, or tap a yellow, and then I can either choose to play this, or I can choose one of my opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode. 9 times out of 10 you're going to play this if you have it in hand. This also finds this from deck for 1. So these basically just complement each other so well, and they're always going to draw a card. So like this deck just basically says, every card I play, I want to draw a card off of what I'm doing, or I'm going to play something that's going to be super detrimental. Like you get so much value off this deck. It's really ridiculous. Slug, if you don't know what it does, he says that when he's in rest mode, he has a bond 2 that your opponent cannot draw outside of anything but their leader effects. So that's why this card is just super annoying to everybody. Two Basil, sometimes I use it. Most games I actually do because there's a lot of mid-range in this meta. So a lot of people are getting to tap out, 4 or 5 cards. Red Jiren as well. Even this deck spits out pretty decent amount of battle cards. So this guy's just draw a card, activate main. You give him, 15k? Yeah, 15k. He gets 19k and dual attack until the end of your next main phase. So he's still a 19k on your opponent's turn, which is pretty cool. I play the 1 of Bergamo just because he's Bergamo. Everything in the step tap stuff, and you can additionally tap 2 energy to tap down energy, which is probably the most broken thing you can do in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Even at a 1 of, that card's still busted.
Yeah, Bergamo's it's insane. I was running this at 4, but I put it down to 3 just because I always saw it, and I don't feel like I needed too many of them every game. I think like seeing two a game is fine. Turles is really good. 2 energy, as long as you have 3, tap 2 yellow, and you can either KO something in rest mode or draw a card and KO something else in rest mode. So most of the time, you're going to be able to deal with your opponent's board because of this card and because of Trunks. Yellow just has a lot of good removal now. This set really pushed yellow to the top. And he's also a double strike, so he's good against Unisons. Boo Unison especially is very tough to get around in this deck. So this card really helps, especially you run Champa, so you're going to be able to throw some double strikes elsewhere. I didn't see many people running this in Nats. I still run one of just because I feel like any matchup where they need to tap down anything to activate an extra card and an additional energy usually is just too much for them. So this card.
Yeah, absolutely. Today in our locals, I was playing the new set Red Broly, and I actually went 2-1, and my only loss was to you, and that card did detrimental amounts of work against me because I just couldn't do nothing. Even basically, what is that card? The Homicidal Clones for red. That even costs an energy if you're trying to rip a life for it. So that card's pretty rough.
Yeah, exactly. I think the game that we played, you had one energy up, which it entitled you to a violent raise that would have been really, really detrimental otherwise if I didn't play this card.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I still run this card. Deflect Barrier, unique. You only need one. When you see it, you usually play it. It's good.
Yeah, it does what it does.
It's Goku. Most people run one, I run two. Like I said, there's a lot of blue in our locals. This counters Hatch one turn, and then something else another turn. Also for green, Dormant Potential. Anything that's really... Oh, and especially now the Pan. You can counter that, so that would be pretty sweet. I didn't even think of that.
Absolutely. Also, I've noticed that this card comes up a lot more since this deck does go to late games. This card comes up a lot towards the middle of the match, just so you can keep poking at the opponent's leader, which is pretty sweet. I watched them come out a couple times earlier game, just so that later game you can drop it again for the kill turn.
Yeah, and a lot of, like I said, this meta is so mid-range. There's a lot of decks that just run a lot of floodgates. So this deck can afford to go later turns, but you normally want to kill by turn 6. And that's why, like, you'll see the one card I run in here. Turn 6 is like pretty much your last push turn. If you go past turn 6, it might be a little more uphill because you're going to start losing more resources at that point. Even though this deck draws so much, like by turn 6, you're going to have about a 12, 13 card hand, and then after that, it's going to keep dwindling. Cooler. I think this card should be banned. A lot of people hate it. They banned Battering for a reason. This card counters anything. I don't think they will touch it, but a lot of people think it should be banned.
For 3 energy, I feel like that card's pretty fair.
Yeah, and it draws a card. If you have 6 or more cards rested, it draws 2, so it's pretty good. But yeah, I like the fact that I just thought, I'm like, oh, I can counter Pan because that's a counter attack.
Right, and Pan is going to skyrocket after this Nats.
Yeah, Pan about to be 500. Y'all should get him now. Now I'm going into off-color package. All the colors from here are going to be not yellow. Self-explanatory. Win con of the game. If you see this card and your opponent says no negate and they're at 2 life, you win. Because your hand is bigger than any other hand in this game so far, I feel. Any other deck, maybe Soul Striker, can also keep up with the hand size of this. But this is way more consistent than Soul Striker because Soul Striker has to see all 3 or 4 apes to get the hand size this deck gets every game. So you see this, your hand size is automatically more so than your opponent's, and you're going to be able to either just go for game, or what I like to do is sometimes I'll use this just to take out an additional marker on a Unison, because surprise, surprise, I don't run Kai. This card is also really annoying, and not many people ran it in the blue-yellow version, but I still did. Me and Bruce both feel like this card is just a staple for yellow since it came out. Puntine comes out, as long as you rest anything, she plays for free. She has barriers, so she's really annoying. The only decks you really don't want to play this against is like Gogeta Zeno, because they're just going to tap 1 and be like, alright, get rid of it. It's cool. But it's still good. Like it anytime they counterplay, or activate a counter, period. Anytime they activate a counter, or if they play a card using a skill. Or is it just playing the card using a skill? Yeah, so anytime they play a battle card using a skill or a counter, she basically can choose anything on the board as long as it doesn't have barrier and rest it. So it's pretty good. But it has to proc like right away. So they can play something with a skill that they don't care about and then proceed, which is usually how I play around this card, but exactly, you have to play around it.
Absolutely.
So Fighting Fates is out and this guy's in now because of mid-range meta. people are playing scarier things that are, I guess, maybe 4 drops or, you know, coupling with tokens. That new Rose Black card that came out like last set anniversary. That card's pretty nuts. Anything that's just got tokens or battle cards that are, you know, flooding the board, this guy takes care of it. Total cost is 6. Rips any tokens as well. And then 25k attacker. Enough said. This is also win kind of the game in case you go long game. It's foo. Don't really need to say anything more than that. Overwhelm, tap 6, 30k double strike. For your turn and your opponent's turn, they can't do anything outside of their leader ability.
Nothing.
That's it. No extra cards, no field cards, no battle cards, just leader ability.
Yep.
So, yeah, he usually wins
game. Even if you don't kill him on the turn that you do use that, you'll more than likely see the next turn and kill them then.
And this card been out for how long?
Since
like Set 3. Wow, I've had this card a really long time, huh?
Yep, that card has been doing work since day one. That's another great thing about Dragon Ball, man. A lot of cards from old sets stay very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Food's been good for so long. Everybody's always like, they need to ban that card.
Let's think about Bean, per se, you know?
Bean, yeah.
That card has been around for forever. That set when Frieza has had great representation recently, and that card has been out since set 1, and it's, you know, that's crazy.
So, we saved the best for last. Y'all better get your copies now. This is the new best card in the game. This is Panzino.
Pan!
This girl is insane. Baby hatch for any deck, basically. So as long as you have 3 energy, and between you and your opponent, for every battle card that's on the field, she gets reduced by 2. So she becomes free, which is why, I don't know.
She becomes free if there's 4 cards in play, guys. That's between you and your opponent.
I don't know why, man. I decided to make a better card than Kai Seeker Rare, but this card is stupid. Free.
Busted.
Free. And free. That's all I need to say.
That is Baby Hash and Heron's Lineage on 1 card.
So yeah, so you play this on your opponent's turn. They swing with their leader, let's say. You just play this. Then they either deal with it or they don't. And you get a 40k beater if you want, but most of the time, if somebody's got a counterplay or out to, you know, we've all played Kai and had to just tap 1 to get rid of it and not swing with it, right? I think we've all been there. So, yeah, this card you can do the same thing. You can just tap 1, except you can steal any monster on the side of the field. You want to know why I said any monster? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. We play this card. So any monster on the field you can take.
Busted.
And that's Yellow Icarus.
Alrighty. Any last shout outs you want to say?
Shout out to the Vegeta Saiyan Army. Shout out to the Yuhp gang. Shout out to Rod. All the people that test with me. Congrats to Marquise for doing what he did in Nats and Duvall. Universe Z, I feel like, you know, they're the best team in the game. I've said for a long time. Marquise is a good friend of mine, so I'm happy for him.
Absolutely. Shout out Universe Z. Go check out their channel and subscribe to them. And also, guys, if you are new here and enjoyed today's content, consider subscribing, hitting that like, hitting the notification bell, and also enjoy your night. We'll see you guys in the next video.